The year was 2005, the year I joined Christ College then, now Christ University. I had grown up in a rural coastal village, studied in a Kannada medium school, and I did not share, at least I thought I did not share, any of the worldview and experiences of the students of Christ University. I was worried whether I will be accepted, whether I'll be able to make an impact, whether it was a right decision to move from a small town to a big place, Bangalore and Christ College then, Christ University now. So I fell back on a technology which I had just learned, PowerPoint, and I said, I will go to every class well prepared with my PowerPoint. And so did I. My every class, 2005 in Christ University, Christ College was on PowerPoint. And to make it more engaging, I added pieces from Bollywood movies, paintings, sculptures, art, as many things I can feed into them just to ensure I am accepted in my classes, which earned me a nickname, Power Pinto. Little did I realize after that I was perhaps the only teacher who was going to every class with a PPT. After every class, students asked me for PPT, because that was their notes. And I said, okay, and I began to email them. This was not the era of Google or Gmail. It was the era of Rediffmail, USA.net, and Yahoo. And more than half the emails used to bounce back. So I went and asked my students, look, how do I have a small place, maybe a website, where I can upload all these and students can download my PPTs? And the student said, why do you need a website for that? You create a blog. Well, I didn't know what blog was. I said, okay, but how do I create? They said, well, you can create from Gmail ID. And I said, I don't have a Gmail ID. That time, Gmail was only by invitation. And they said, I have about 3 invitations left. I'll share one with you, and you can start your blog. And so did I. And from then on, I began to post all my PPTs on the blog. And today, the blog has crossed, although I don't update now as administrator, more than a few million views every day across the world. The year I joined the institution, it became autonomous, which means it had freedom with its assessment. And the college decided to keep 50% assessment internal, which means that suddenly the students were submitting tons and tons of their assignments and papers. Having had a concern for nature, I felt very bad to see so much of paper after my assessment straight away going into the dumps. So I said, anyway, there's a blog. Why don't I ask them to post the assignment on the blog so that I can save on the paper? I'm talking about 2006. And from then on, all the assignments that the student had to write had to be on the blog. But it began some very strange behavior among the students. For the first time in their lives, all the students of the class had access to everyone's assignment. And suddenly, in a class of 9,800, students were surprised to find such gems in such beautiful way of thinking and writing that they never knew. And the whole dynamics of the classes began to change. The year I joined, I was made a class teacher. And it was a class in BA Media. And as a class teacher, within a week's time, every day I had other teachers from other classes complaining to me about my class, saying that they don't listen to me, they are not engaged, they talk, they disrupt, they're absent, and the complaints went on. And as a young teacher, I had to solve them. I watched them over the year, and I found out that the problem was actually that they always had a very small set of friends. The class had not evolved as a community, as a collective consciousness. So in the next year, when I had to redesign the curriculum, I made performing one-act plays a compulsory part of the curriculum. I picked the students across the class, gave them a one-act play, and said, you're going to direct this, you're going to perform, 25% of your marks are your performance of these plays. In 1 month's time of the first semester, the students put up the 10 one-act plays, and from that day, the complaints of teachers reduced to 80%. The students had opened themselves up in their weaknesses and limitations to each other, and as a result, had collectively come to accept each other's weaknesses, not just strengths. 2 years down, I realized the university college did not have a master's program in literature. And having read post-colonial studies, post-structuralism, post-modernism, I somehow did not like the way I had learned my MA English Literature program, wherein out of 10 courses, 7 were British literature courses. I was wondering, why do I have to teach 70% of my program, which is British literature, in a post-colonial country? So I looked at the 30 years of the history of English departments in India, picked up the various rebellions and voices that had come from those in 10 years, and housed them in one program as gender studies, culture studies, theater studies, film studies, linguistics, American literature, British literature, Indian literature, and the like. The results were amazing. The entire batch went on to most of them went on to the PhDs, and some of them from the Ivy Leagues from the very first batch. I had designed a textbook for English in Christ called Perspectives. And in one of the second year classes, when I walked in, first day, I used to ask the students what is the expectation from my class, and one student stood up and said, "Sir, this textbook is below our standard." I was shocked. With great difficulty, with a lot of reading, I had put this book together, and here's a class that says, this textbook is below our standard. I was a fool. I asked the class, how many of you agree with you? And the entire class raised a hand. I was surprised. I was dejected. I went home. Next morning, I came to class and said, since you said that this textbook is below your standard, I will be your student, and you shall teach me the entire textbook. But you shall teach me the way I want it. One of you will give the summary. One of you will write all the possible questions and answers to them and post them on my blog. One of you will write a critical analysis. One of you will convert into a play and direct the entire play to your team. One of you will write a poem. One of you will make a painting out of it. And I shall watch all of it. And that's how I began. The 10 lessons were done, me sitting, and the students presenting each lesson in this format. In fact, one of the summary of Toba Singh that a girl from a tribal community from Madhya Pradesh wrote today has seen more than 2 million views. None of my writings have been seen that many times. And of course, the material also went online. And after 3 months, a semester is 4 months, I asked them, okay, now that, well, we've completed the portion, what is that you really want to learn? And they said, we want to learn phonetics. And of course, I taught phonetics next 1 month, and that was one of my most memorable teaching experience in my career as a teacher at Christ University. There was a day for MA English students, I had given them presentations for assessment, and I realized I didn't have time for the entire 25 students to make presentations. So I said, what do? I said, okay, go home, and you record your presentation in YouTube. This is 2012, and share with me, and I shall watch it on YouTube. Very few had laptops, and none of them had done videos so far, but through peer learning, all of them learned how to present themselves in front of a camera. All of them learned to share their resources, and of course, they had 25 YouTube presentations shared, and of course, they were graded on that. I always worried about the labor of students that went waste. With great difficulty, they write their assignments, and I grade them, and of course, they go to the waste bin thereafter. I was thinking, how do we make the entire student effort on assessment socially productive? So I said, okay, one of course was to post them on the blog, so it's publicly available as a public information, benefiting larger community across the world, not just India. But I also said, okay, now you create Wikipedia articles. You edit Wikipedia articles. Your assessment is on the Wikipedia articles you create in the subjects I teach. When I became registrar, and in the MA English program that I designed, I also, of course, had introduced for the first time in India, and maybe first time in the world, a compulsory internship in MA English program. This was 2008. And of course, I learned that many students, because of internships, realize either that was their passion or realize that is not their passion. A student who went on to do internship in a nursery school realized that's a passion and remained a nursery school teacher. Another person who nurtured a lifelong passion to be a journalist went to a media house and realized that's not the profession she wants, and she gave up media completely. With this, when I became registrar, one of the things I did was to introduce internship in every single program, including subjects like mathematics in Christ University, thus making the university first in the country to make internships compulsory across all programs, which of course in NEP it was introduced later in 2020. In 2012, Coursera and TEDx were launched in the US. And I was teaching my MA English class, and the very same semester, I introduced them in my class, told my students, you're going to do those courses, and 50% of my evaluation will be the grades you obtain in the Coursera and TEDx courses. It was perhaps, again, the first time. And later, of course, we took this experiment to the entire university where there was a time, and between 2013, 14, 15, entire university, all the students at least had one MOOC course that they were doing. This is much before MOOC became a common phenomenon. So from these various innovations, what do I understand as the enablers for people who want to be creative or innovative? One is you need to make your career your choice. It's only then that you'll be able to bring your unbridled passion to the choice that you make. Of course, choices in life also come with a necessity of some social privilege, but if you do have that, it's important that you make your career your choice, not because it's going to earn you more income and money. I'm a teacher by choice, and if I didn't choose this profession by choice, I doubt I would have done these and many more experiments that I have done. Values are the foundations of innovations. It is because I had a concern for nature. It is because I had a concern for environment that I was concerned about the amount of paper that was wasted, amount of trees that would have been cut down to make those papers, and because of which my experiment went into blogging and many other ways in which students were able to make their assessment more socially productive and trying to see how do we cut down carbon footprints that we create in the name of assessments. Values are, therefore, foundations of innovations. Innovation needs to be grammar of one's personality. It is because I had done a Wikipedia exercise in the classroom. A little later, when I became registrar, when I heard from various language teachers, we were teaching that time Kannada, Tamil, Urdu, Sanskrit, French, and other languages in Christ, saying that students are not interested in our classrooms. They're not interested in what we teach. They're not interested in poetry and drama. I thought, why can't we bring the experiment of Wikipedia into language classrooms? By then, I also had realized through my reading an important twist that had happened in Indian history. When English came to India, the Indian languages adopted quickly. They adopted literary forms, like Indian languages didn't have novels. So they adopted the literary form of novel from English and brought out novels in local languages. There was no tragedy in India. Tragedy plays were not there in Indian languages. So Indians created tragic plays in Indian languages. But Indian languages remained in the confines of purely literature and culture. They did not move into producing scientific knowledge in regional languages and local languages. And I realized in the language classes, while they learn Kannada and Sanskrit and Urdu and Tamil, can they produce scientific knowledge in these languages? And it is university which has to begin this. So with the language department, we designed a curriculum for languages where in the first semester, they would digitize the ancient texts of the 19th century, 18th century, 16th century, which are available only in manuscripts or in some archival form, into texts, thereby creating public texts. In the second semester, they would edit Wikipedia articles and thereby cut their teeth in editing Wikipedia articles. In the third semester, they would create articles in their languages they're studying. The students of Kannada would prepare articles in Kannada. Students of Tamil would prepare articles in Tamil and upload them to Wikipedia. And in the fourth semester, the most important thing, they would write articles in their respective subjects. Physics students in physics, chemistry students in chemistry, sociology students in sociology, in local languages, which is a tough job because you have to create new words and concepts in the languages. And as a result, all the students of Christ University studying languages got trained in this, and Christ University became one of the first universities in the world and the university with the largest number of students experimenting in language learning through Wikipedia. It is important that we take adversities lovingly. If in my class, when the student said, this textbook is below my standard, if I had got angry and blamed them, I would have lost on a great moment of insatisfaction in my teaching life. If I joined my fellow teachers in saying the students are making noise, they're disinterested, and labeled them, I would have lost a chance to touch many lives and transform a class into a community, and again, of course, satisfy myself as a teacher. Innovation also requires a keen engagement with all the developments in your field across the world. If I wasn't trying to constantly know what is happening across the world, I would have missed out on Coursera. I would have missed out on TEDx. And if I had missed out, because of which 25,000 students who later had to do MOOC courses in 2013, 14, 15 also would have missed out on their chances. These are my 10 innovations as a teacher in the first 5 years of my career in Christ, and the 5 lessons I derived from it. Thank you very much.